I think that there are at least two areas where our contribution is relevant. One is the area of language impairment, both in adults and children, where a linguist could contribute in establishing which is the linguistic profile of a given person. This information is relevant to build a rehabilitation program that is tailored to the needs of a given person. The second area is the area of educational linguistics, where a linguist could help designing programs to foster, to boost the language acquisition of immigrant children, the learning of a second language in particular.
So we have many programs in the United States, and many of them are also translated into Spanish, and I'm sure you have them in Argentina as well, where we are literally showing parents the power they have in their own voice and their own language. If they know that it's cool to communicate with young children, if they know that it's a benefit to the young child, if you only do that. Many of these programs, back and forth programs, that can help parents see the power and gift of their own language.
We create resources like a website or web resources, and people admire them, even if they cannot necessarily use them easily. Based on these resources, people create, or we help them create as well, pedagogical materials. And so, like really promote the languages and promote the people as well.
Linguists can really do important things for communities with threatened languages, or even minority languages that aren't threatened, because for so long there hasn't been any respect for these languages, and so people were ashamed to use them or didn't believe in them. And I think linguists can show how beautiful and intricate and important they are and valued they are.
We should follow in Bill LaBeouf's footsteps and show that non-standard varieties of languages are just as logical and rule-governed as the standard variety. We should work hard to get this message across to society at large. And one way to do this is by trying to get Bill LaBeouf's message incorporated into education school curricula, and in fact, make that part of a larger collaboration between linguistics and educators.
It's important to see how you can contribute to teaching, not necessarily in the sense of that prescriptive, to say, well, this is the rule you have to follow, otherwise you get hit on your head. But in one way or another, of course, there are cases where children suffer because they have specific language impairment or dyslexia. It's important to have sufficient knowledge about the different complexities of and aspects of language in order to be helpful to see what kind of treatment can be done.
We need to get it into the curricula that all these dialects are all right, and that if you write in a dialect, it's not a crime, and you just shouldn't feel bad about it. I think comparative linguistics should be taught in elementary school, that kids will find it interesting and enjoy it. I know that they enjoy doing recursion. A game that I play with kids sometimes is I say, and who is your grandfather's mother's son? And the kid sits there and they say, it's me. Oh, and I said, well, who is your mother's cousin's nephew? And they say, me. And they can compute all of these complex recursive possessives, and they enjoy it, and then they'll do it. These things can be brought into the curriculum, and children will enjoy learning about recursive sentences and taking them apart.
Análisis crítico del discurso es un análisis que pretende remediar a problemas sociales, contribuir a la terapia, digamos, de varios problemas sociales ligados, no sé, al racismo, a problemas al machismo, etc.
Dus análisis crítico del discurso, todo el trabajo hecho por Hagoort sobre antisemitismo, por ejemplo, es fundamental. Y sobre extrema derecha, varios libros, artículos de ella y otra gente en Inglaterra, trabajos lo que mucha gente ha hecho sobre discurso, fascismo, etc. Toda esa área más mala, digamos, de la sociedad humana, fascismo, racismo, etc. Eso ya tenemos cubierto y todavía hay que hacer mucho, pero también hay que ver cosas más casi positivas. ¿Cuál es la forma de resistencia? ¿Cómo luchar contra esas cosas? ¿Qué es el discurso no dominante? El discurso solidario de resistencia. Eso también hay que hacer.
There are lots of potential contributions. I think one important thing is that as linguists, we understand that no language or dialect is qualitatively better than any other language or dialect. We can help educate the public about the importance of language diversity and how languages and dialects are important markers of social identity. None is better than the other, and to help erase some of the stigma around speaking non-standard languages or dialects which are not official majority languages.
The documentation of underrepresented languages. There's so many languages that are spoken, that are under-researched still, that are not taken into consideration in mainstream work on linguistics. And also, these are often languages, in particular if they're non-standard dialects or languages, that are also in society, they're suppressed, they're devalued. And I think linguistic research can do a lot just by looking at those languages, revealing the properties of those languages. We can do a lot to help society, both the communities where those languages are spoken, but also the field of humanities as a whole.
Maybe having really good linguistics out there and sort of celebrating the complexity and the specialness of each language can give people a deeper understanding of their place in the world. I mean, there's still a lot of people who think, okay, well, maybe not so much there, but here, you know, people who think, okay, if you speak English, you're smart, and if you speak anything else, you're just not as smart as I am because it's all measured by English. It would be really nice if people understood how diverse the possibilities are. And of course, if we want to do that, we have to have really good documentation and description. So not just here's the verb paradigm, the end. You want to really see what people do with their language and how different that can be. Like, you know, there's more than one way to think. I think that's an important thing.
We have to fight language prejudice. We really have to fight it. We have to fight it in a way that takes language and makes it so clear that every dialect is just as good as every other one. You can't just say it, you have to prove it. Recognizing the dignity of all human beings when they speak. That idea of human dignity has to come across as well. And that's something that linguists have a big responsibility for. They have to really make it clear that language is not the only way of thinking.
Sigo pensando que somos absolutamente fundamentales a la hora de entendernos como seres humanos. Y eso no es nuevo, eso ha sido siempre así. Así que simplemente espero que haya muchos Bolívar que tienen como preceptores a muchos Andrés Bello y que ese diálogo continúe, ¿no? Yo no me quiero inventar aquí ninguna rueda porque lo han hecho nuestros antepasados.
Tengo la sensación, por un lado, de que los lingüistas no hemos sabido vender bien lo que hacemos. Hay facetas de los lingüistas que sí que son bien conocidas en la sociedad y que han tenido una gran popularidad y son muy utilizadas. Creo que son las facetas que desde mi punto de vista son útiles, son importantes, son necesarias, pero son las menos interesantes porque no son las que más desafíos plantean. Estoy pensando en la normativa, en la corrección. Yo creo que esa es la faceta quizá más popularizada. Creo que también hay que intentar defender la idea de que cuando uno hace gramática realmente está conectando ese conocimiento con el de otras disciplinas más científicas para trabajar la argumentación, para establecer hipótesis, para hacer muchas cosas que al menos en lo que yo conozco, en donde he trabajado en España, no se suelen ver en el aula. A la hora de corregir muchos de los errores de escritura que hay, creo que la gramática puede ser tremendamente útil.
Everything we do is saturated with writing. One of the most important, if not to me, the most important reason that we live lives differently now than we lived 5,000 years ago. It allowed the formation of modern economies. It allowed the formation of modern governments. all the bureaucracies, all forms of knowledge and science, modern religions, belief systems, all of these things are held together by writing. Given that, the more we understand about writing, the more we understand our world, the better we can participate within it, the more we can change it. Writing is how you get your voice, how you establish your presence, meaning, value. And it's also how you can transform those systems to make the world a better place, a more habitable place for you and for others. So people may not appreciate what we do, but we all know what we do.